Hey everyone, it's been a while, over 3 months. You've probably forgotten about me, everyone does. I'm only kidding, but I've been doing this YouTube thing for some time. And that, coupled with some real world stuff, caused me to reevaluate things. I took time and asked myself, why are you doing this? Why? And what do you really want from this? And after pondering for some time, I realized I miss making videos. I just miss talking to you guys. So I'm back, and I've missed a lot on this channel, and I decided to do a recap ranking on all the horror films that I've watched so far this year. That's exactly 20. Now, there are some films that I have watched that haven't been widely released, whether that be in theaters or streaming, but these are the films that are widely released and that I've watched. And I made it a point to stay away from films that I know are gonna suck or I'm just not interested in. Anyways, without further ado, let's get on to the ranking. We have Firestarter. This film upset me. I really enjoyed Keith Thomas's directorial debut, The Vigil, and I was pretty excited to see what his take on the Stephen King material would be. But boy, did this film miss the mark. Ryan Kiera Armstrong is great as Charlie, but her performance is negated by a chaotic narrative, and I don't mean it in an entertaining way. If anything, this film is boring, only backed by Zac Efron's boring performance. Even what should have been an exciting and fiery last act goes out like a wee little flame. In the end, you're left wondering, how could they make John Carpenter score such a shit movie? Next we had They/Them. Another disappointment. I mean, when I heard Kevin Bacon will be in a slasher and it takes place in a camp setting, I was like, bet. And then when I got to see it, I was like, oh no, this film is just bizarre. We go over an hour with only 2 kills, and this is a slasher? I mean, it's in the title. The film lacked focus and could have benefited with sticking with the conversion therapy. That's horrific on its own. Time is another issue with They/Them. I feel like the writers really had no idea how long they should have made these camps time frame. I mean, how much conversion could you really do in a week? And then there's a scene that made absolutely no sense. A character is used as a temptress for the camp and seduces another character. Now, they have sex, and the act is something that the camp is strictly against, but they do a whole got you moment after, and it's like, you didn't have to do that. It's just an incoherent mess. It's a shame though, because the film has so much potential. The Cursed. The Cursed? I don't know. It's a mixed bag. There's aspects that I really liked, and there's other aspects that I just did not find good or interesting. I was excited for a good werewolf film, and it was half that. The lichens weren't frightening, unfortunately. They looked kind of goofy at parts. Just their overall design, I just didn't mess with. The film really takes its time fleshing out the lore, but I felt the gypsies and the scarecrow was more interesting. I like the commentary on greed, but the delivery was dull. And one of the most needless twists I've seen in a film puts it down on my list. Now, this film is insane. With Host being such a creepy and atmospheric horror, Dashcam is the exact opposite, with being a little too relentless with its pace, and it's not in a good way. The main character makes or breaks this film, and she made it for me, to be honest, but the over-top nature of the character matched the situation and helped set the tone. But this would have definitely benefited as being part of an anthology. We just needed a little bit more explained. The gross out horror and tension bumps it up for me though. I have a more in-depth review on my channel, but to give you a quick summary of my thoughts, my main issue with this film is the writing. The dialogue is horrible and awkward at parts. I like the main character of Darby. She's troubled, but you root for her because she has the best intentions. The mystery is lacking, it's pretty predictable, and the reveal is laughable, but all in all, we get the main crux of the film. It's entertaining, and watching Darby kick some ass is always exciting. Another one I have a review for. Resurrection is set to come out soon on Shudder, so it's on the list. I love Rebecca Hall, and she is excellent here. I mean, we get a 3-minute monologue with her saying some pretty messed up stuff, and it's chilling to say the least. So it's not her that hurts the film, it's the ending. They need to push it even further to get the message across. It doesn't want to commit. Come on, Resurrection, put a ring on it. It's just so open-ended that it would have benefited from having a definitive ending, in my opinion. There's some great dark moments, but they're few and far between, and the villain of the film is just doesn't fulfill the villain quota. Whether it's purposeful or not, it really didn't work for me. This is the best Texas Chainsaw Massacre we've gotten in a long while. With the behind the scenes drama that was going on, it's surprising that we got a decent film out of it. Now, there's some pretty good misdirects. I thought the film was going to be predictable, but there were some nice surprises. And boy, do we get a good amount of blood and gore. The thing is, it doesn't feel like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. It feels more like your typical slasher and uses social commentary as a crutch instead of actually developing the character. I mean, our guy Richter gets the most development, and you know what happens to him. I think 5 to 10 years from now, people will really look fondly on this film, but I guess we'll have to see. David Cronenberg is back, and it wasn't as ceremonious as I would have wanted. Crimes of the Future has some big ideas and does well with its atmosphere, making you feel uneasy throughout. There's some great body horror, some sexual body horror, imagery that we haven't seen since Videodrome. The thing is, the story is just dull and has one of the most anticlimactic endings I've ever seen. I seriously couldn't believe it. I love me some psychological horror, and Hypochondriac is a really good one. It's based on a real mental breakdown that the director had. I caught it at the Phoenix Film Festival and got to hear from the director during the Q&A. It's a very vulnerable film and delves into the fear of trauma from childhood and mental illness. The film does a great job of leaving you disoriented. You are in the same shoes as the main character. Are they having a breakdown, or is this all real? Now, there are some aspects of the film that felt silly, like the manifestation of Will's fears as a very copy and paste Wolfman that looks just like the bunny from Donnie Darko. And there's a very goofy scene at the pottery workshop in the beginning that comes off as very cringy. But overall, the film's pretty well done. Fresh is freshy fresh. No, but really, it's a really interesting concept that feels like it needed to be fleshed out more. They do some world building, but it ends up amounting to nothing. I definitely would have liked this more if it was a bit more intimate without having the cannibal society. The narrative just felt like a copy and paste of Get Out, and in that way it felt unoriginal. But I really enjoyed the performances. The build up and the shock factor is well done. I wanted it to be more disturbing, but hey, I watched a lot of Hannibal, so maybe I'm used to cannibalism. Watcher gets the concept of horror thriller down pat. It builds up dread by having us follow Julia as she tries to acclimate to a whole new environment, and she's as isolated as ever. Not only that, she has to deal with a serial killer on the loose. Visually, this film is stunning and feels Hitchcockian. Is our protagonist reliable and valid in their fear, or is it just a misunderstanding? The performances are great, and there's some downright creepy scenes. The ending needed to be a bit more effective and tense, as well as the film being slow at parts. But if you enjoy a good old creep stalker flick, Watcher is good for you. Where do I even start? This film is one of the most divisive films of the year. I enjoyed it for the most part, and I definitely see people's qualms with it, and I have my own. There's just so much imagery and messages that it seems pretty unfair to expect your audience to catch the main narrative of the film. Jessie Buckley is excellent and is the emotional heartbeat of this film, and that ending is incredibly haunting. I just think it's a cop-out to not have a more thought-out message, when the film was built so much on ambiguity. Hatching is one of those films where you think you have it pegged by the trailer. But boy, is this film so bizarre, and I loved it. Although the film does push the metaphor aspect a bit too much, there's enough body horror here to keep my thirst quenched. I just wish there was more of it. The ending also feels a bit rushed, but man oh man did I enjoy Hatching. This is the most recent film that I've watched, and I'm still somewhat marinating on it. I really enjoyed this whodunit. I went in thinking the trailers were cringy and unfunny, and ultimately it was executed very well in the film. The setting is spectacular with the hurricane, and it made the tension even more palpable. There's some great memorable moments. Now, although I'm all for satirical look at the latest generation, these characters were a bit too unlikable. But it wasn't until the movie's ending where I saw what the film was going for, and that made it all the more enjoyable. The Black Phone can be summed up in 2 words: crowd pleasing. With this being based off a short story, filmmaker Scott Derrickson had the task of making it a feature film, and he was able to complete the task without putting needless filler. There is some excellent tension, and the introduction of the supernatural is not hokey, and it's something you feel only Derrickson can pull off. Ethan Hawke brings a sinister performance. You see what I did there? It makes the grabber character all the more vile. And boy is there a payoff at the end. My negatives with the film would be the child actors. Well, some of them, mainly the ghosts. And there's something in particular that the film is asking of the audience that's just way too much. How is the grabber not noticing Finney's attempted escapes? All in all, The Black Phone is great and surprisingly emotional. One of the most deranged films that's come out in a while, and since I'm deranged myself, you know I liked it. Although there is some stuff that just takes it to a whole other deranged level, this film is intense from beginning to end. It's not for the faint of heart. There's some vile shit in here, like graphic sexual violence, which I definitely wasn't expecting. The story is nothing to write home about, but I feel like it's just enough to keep the film moving along and strong enough to keep you engaged. Overall, there's some scenes I won't be able to get out of my head, and to me, that's the sign of an effective horror. It's amazing how the Radio Silence crew was able to execute such a fresh take on a franchise that's 5 films in now, and also with doing so, keeping the same feel of the originals. The kills are done very well. They were able to integrate the legacy characters without making it feel too forced, and also introducing new characters to expand the story. However, with saying that, there was some mishandling of the new characters, as well as a CGI character that looks severely uncanny. It all culminates to a final act that does the franchise justice, and further cements Scream's title as a legendary franchise. Prey is the best Predator sequel and gives the original a run for its money. I have almost no issues with this film. It's a return to basics but also brings new and exciting moments. The Predator has an awesome design and his arsenal is bare bones as well, and it makes it as close to an even playing field as we can get. The action sequences are great, and there's some awesome kills. Naru is also a great protagonist. She's resourceful, smart, and a great character to rally behind. She's trying to prove herself to her tribe while the Predator is trying to prove it can hunt the most dangerous species on the planet. There's an issue with a gap in time, and there's a scene where a French man speaks in English to Naru to tell her that he speaks Comanche. Makes no sense, but makes more sense in the Comanche version. But other than that, I absolutely love Prey. An original blockbuster horror. We need more of these, please. I love Nope, and I can talk about Nope forever. If you want to hear me talk about it for like 2 hours, check out my podcast. Jordan Peele does right what Alexander Garland did slightly wrong in Men. There's actually a clear message behind all these puzzle pieces. This film also gave an amazing laugh after the film with Logan Paul's review, and him completely missing the point that, you know, applied to him. That dead body that he filmed in the forest and exploited. Yeah, okay, went on a tangent there. This film has some iconic moments I won't soon forget. and it's one of the most spectacular last acts I've enjoyed in an IMAX theater. Can you believe we're getting a prequel in another month? This is a modern slasher with an old-fashioned feel. You actually care about these characters, and when they meet their end, you feel something. Even the villains get a little backstory. There's a healthy balance of comedy and horror, and once you get to the kills, boy are they awesome and well executed. The themes are not overbearing and don't take away anything from the film. You don't have to acknowledge them, and you can still enjoy the film for what it is. Ty West brought exploitation cinema back to the mainstream, and I can't wait to see what he has in store with Pearl. Alright, so that's my ranking for every film I watched in 2022 so far. Again, there's some films that I have seen, but they're still in the festival circuit, haven't been widely released, so not on the list. But later on, if they're available, they'll be on the list. It feels great to be back, and I really hope you stick around. Thank you so much for bearing with me, and take care.